But Fareed, it's not just about how strong the government and Prime Minister Modi is, it's also about how strong the Indian opposition is. And given the current state of the opposition, and there are some senior voices from India's opposition with us in the audience, what are the lessons you think India's opposition can draw internationally from how opposition movements internationally are dealing with a similar situation? Because at this moment, they're up against a force which electorally they haven't been able to fight. In recent assembly elections in the Hindi heartland, there was anti-incumbency against the BJP in certain heartland states, and even then the opposition couldn't find a way in a localized regional context to topple the BJP when the Prime Minister wasn't on the ticket. So what are the lessons you think India's opposition can learn from what's happening with the opposition internationally?
So first I'd say, remember, it's not always necessary to find one single party that can define itself as the opposition. If you think about India's post Rajiv Gandhi, it has mostly been coalition governments. It has mostly been a collection of parties that won. And maybe in a sense, India's diversity lends itself to that kind of coalition politics. Modi is the exception. Modi was able to nationalize the BJP. Even Vajpayee and Advani were not able to. Dalits never really voted for that version of the BJP. So Modi's, again, I give him credit. Modi's genius was to find a way to nationalize the BJP, either through alliances or by personal appeal to include the Dalit vote. And there was a certain amount of rather aggressive Hindutva in that too, where, in effect, what you're saying to the Hindus, majority, even lower caste Hindus, is, look, we're all in this together because we're not Muslims. You can take pride in the fact that you may be a Dalit, but at least you're not a Muslim. There is a certain raw tribal politics being played there. But your point is well taken. The thing that I think particularly the Congress has to learn to do is to better connect with that, that Aam Aadmi, if I can coin a phrase. And they're not as good at that. I think they're better than people think. I think that there's always been a challenge for Congress to return to its grassroots strength. In my opinion, one of the great tragedies in Indian history was in 71 or 72 when Indira Gandhi suspends internal party elections in India, where the seats used to be given on the basis of a kind of bottom-up process, and then it became a top-down process where a court in Delhi was going to decide who got the parliamentary tickets, the legislative seats. It all became a top-down process. The most powerful parties are always those that have a bottom-up, a very strong, and Congress at its greatest always had these very powerful regional leaders, Y.B. Chavan, Kamraj, people like that. And I don't think you can truly rebuild the Congress into a national party without that process. I grant you that Modi has done it with the BJP as a single titular figure. But I don't think that path is available to the Congress. What the Congress should do is embrace its own past, where even under Nehru, there were very powerful regional leaders who had enormous strength in their states. And in a sense, you could look at that and say it was a kind of coalition. They may have all called themselves Congress Party, but Kamraj was certainly somebody who was his own guy and was not going to be dictated to by Delhi. And so if it can embrace that kind of bottom-up grassroots strength, that's probably it also feels more in character with the nature of India.
The other thing you write about, Fareed, in your book is the disconnect between politics and economics. The fact that in the US, the economy is doing better than it has in a long time, and yet Joe Biden's popularity is the second lowest of all modern presidents. There are those in the opposition who will say that given how there is agrarian distress, growing youth unemployment, there should be greater discontent than what can be seen politically. The theory that could apply in the Indian context is even if all of this is true in terms of rural distress, the agrarian sector being badly off, it's about who voters think is best suited to help alleviate their concerns. where when they look at what's available for them politically, they end up potentially settling on the BJP and the Prime Minister because they think, okay, we have a problem, but he's the man who can settle it, and that's where the opposition struggles. Do you think this idea of there being a disconnect between politics and economics applies in the Indian context from your lens as well?
I think it applies, and I think you're right that it could sometimes help Modi, because there's a sense in which even if he didn't deliver on economics, he can deliver on these cultural issues that you raise up. And that's, to my mind, both possibly an effective game that the BJP plays. It's a dangerous one, because, look, the Southern whites used to play this game in America all the time, which is you would say to the Southern white working class, your lives may be terrible, your income may be low, but at least you're one step higher than blacks. That was the basis of the Southern, the old Southern Democrats who used to rule in the South. And in a way that strategy has been used in other places, and in India you can see that strategy being used, where you try and unify Hindus around the idea that they're not the Muslims. I think the danger here is, and this ultimately is why Advani and Vajpayee also, that version of Hindutva didn't work. I think Hinduism is very broad, diverse, and tolerant. I think you can kind of get people riled up for a while, all human beings, on the basis of negativity. But I don't think ultimately it works in India, because India is a very broad, diverse society in which it has tolerated diversity for 5,000 years. And you're rubbing against the grain of that when you try and rile people up on the basis of these, one tribe disliking the other tribe. On competence, you can certainly make the case that Modi will be the guy to deliver. And as I say, he has promoted that image very effectively with some justification. I think with Modi, you always have to recognize that while he's practicing some of these arts of tribal politics, he is also, both politically and administratively, very competent.